goal. And we, sorry for the getting a little behind, but we are about to bring in, I am delighted to bring on board our next streamer, Marie Foulston. We just rebooted her computer, so you know it's going to be good. Known around the internet as Tiger's Hungry. So according to her Wikipedia page, she was born in either 1982 or 1983. They're a little unclear about that. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of it here today. But Marie is known around the world as one of the most credentialed and experienced video game curators, perhaps most famously as the first curator of video games at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. She's directed a documentary. She threw a party in a Google Doc during COVID. Wherever Marie goes, weird, amazing stuff follows. Currently, she is the studio lead at Good Afternoon, which brings together play, curation, and creative technology to show everyone a good time. And today, Marie is going to be giving us a desktop retrospective about one of her earliest projects from the 2010s, Rewilding Rumpus. Oh, there you are. You're on screen with me. I didn't even see you sneak in. Hey, Marie, thanks for bearing with us. Thank you for bearing with us. And also, what's about to happen right now?
Well, what is about to happen? It is raining quite torrentially here in the UK. And I think what did happen is that that's obviously just broken our sort of janky British internet. So whatever is about to happen, I hope that it requires low internet bandwidth, because at what point is anything going to cut out? Who knows? But yeah, what is going to happen? So I was invited by your good self to come and be part of the ROMchip stream. And I wanted to talk about Rewilding Rumpus and talk about games and things that we showed. But as folks will probably understand as I get into it, it's kind of hard to stream some of those games. And so I wanted to be able to take people through a history of Rewilding Rumpus and show you some of those games, and show you sort of the work that we did. But I really was loath to put together another presentation. So we're just going to kick it a little bit sort of messy and rough around the edges with a bit of a dig around my desktop, a dig around some Google Drives, dig around maybe some emails.
Yeah, I think decks are out for 2026. I think desktop folders are in. And real quick before I go, the hourly raffle for this hour is a copy of Intellivision: How a Video Game System Battled Atari and Almost Bankrupted Barbie, courtesy MIT Press. $20 donations this hour are automatically entered into a raffle for this book. See more on our scheduling page. And with that, man, I am going to let you get to it, and I can't wait. Thanks for joining us, Marie. Thanks,
Lane. One of the things I was going to say as well, maybe somebody can say in the chat, is like, what is the goal for this hour? Because one of the other things as well is that behind my door behind me, I'm keeping my beautiful loud daughter Rhubarb, who is a miniature schnauzer, at bay. And I did say that maybe if we hit a certain financial goal, I will happily bring the dog onto the stream. If we hit maybe even more than that, then it might be that maybe I can put her cute little purple baseball cap on. We can put her little bib on. So maybe in the chat, like, get an idea of how much money it would cost for me to bring Rhubarb, my adorable loud daughter, onto the stream. But we'll find out soon. Somebody can say maybe a number in the chat, and then let me know if we hit it closer to 6 p.m. But yeah, so I'm hoping everybody here can see my desktop. I know I promised a messy desktop. I don't think it's that bad, actually. But one of my favorite things whenever I've gone to like conferences and talks is when you get those weird little moments of people transitioning between one computer, like one desktop and another. And everybody tries to keep it so slick and nicely presented, but every now and again you get these little glimpses into people's desktops. And it's just, for me, really like this beautifully revealing moment when you suddenly get this little insight into people's lives. It's like seeing into their messy bedroom, and it just tells you so much about who they are. And yeah, so for me, the way that I wanted to do this is that we're just going to do this from my desktop. And when I was talking to Lane about, it says video frozen. If you guys can still hear me, then maybe that's okay as long as the feed is okay. Oh yeah, okay, I'm okay. And
we're getting you. It's a little choppy, but we're getting
a
you.
little choppy. Okay, well, we'll just put that down. We'll put like the choppy internet down to the inclemental weather that we're having here. But yeah, so that's what I've got here. And when I was talking to Lane about the way that we were going to approach this, I've got it in a sticky note here. The idea for this session is radical honesty, which means that I'm quite comfortable-ish with showing digging into certain Google Drive spreadsheets, maybe going into my email inbox. I have hyphenated here, but lightly choreographed, because it might be that maybe there's certain email addresses or things that's not good to show on stream. But yes, the watchword for this hour or 45 minutes is going to be radical honesty. But yeah, so as you can probably tell by the desktop stickies that I've got dotted around my screen, the thing that we're going to be talking about this hour is some of the work that I used to do a while ago, and I guess never really properly ended. And that was running part of the UK-based video game collective Wild Rumpus. And yeah, and so I guess starting off with like my little sticky notes here, I've got my running order of things that I'm likely to talk about, to one, remind me, but also to let you guys have a little look behind the scenes about what I'm going to talk about. But yeah, so we're going to start off with like one, I guess, sort of who am I, but also what was Wild Rumpus. So let's fire up Google Chrome and have a look. Oh, no, we don't want that one. Let's not look at that one. Let's close that one down. Radical honesty. Can get a sneak behind the scenes. So yeah, so my website, tigershungry.co.uk, is probably one of the best places to find out about myself. But oh yeah, you can see how good the internet connection is. Look at that. Look at that design slowly trickling in. So this is my website, but Wild Rumpus was something that was founded back in 2011. And so this is my website from me in 2025. So this doesn't feel like a very accurate representation of who I was. So we are going to go, not to the Internet Archive, we're going to go to the Wayback Machine. Here we go. This is where I'm praying now, not just for this stream, but also for my sanity on this end, that the internet's going to hold up to allow me to actually, yep. Okay, I've been asked to stop and restart the streaming in OBS. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay, I seem to have your desktop now. I don't have a browser window.
I don't have a browser window up.
Ah.
Which one is it?
I think we're doing everything in Chrome.
Shaka.
There we go. I've got a good feed. Thank you.
Wait, is this still live? So I'm getting to, okay, good, good. Okay. This is me. I don't know how, was I on the stream for the whole of that? Like, I never know, like at the moment, how much my internet's kicking out. So yeah, that was me being asked to restart OBS because of, again, our beautiful British internet here. So yeah, so we're going on to the Wayback Machine. So Wild Rumpus was something that was founded in 2011. So that is where we are going to go back to on the Wayback Machine and look at my website to find out who I was in 2011. So here is November 2011, which again is going to take absolutely ages to come up because, hey, and of course, like none of the styling has come through, which is a shame. I don't quite remember what my website was back then. It might have been a Tumblr or it might have been a WordPress. But yeah, so back in, here we go. So in 2011, this is the 2nd of August, I think this might have been on a Tumblr, I was pleased to announce that the Wild Rumpus, and this will explain to the people in the stream what on earth it is I'm talking about. Oh no, it's gone. That was the page I was just reading. Let's go back to it. There we go. Let's stay on that page. So I was pleased to announce back in August 2011 that Wild Rumpus, a multiplayer indie games night I'm organizing alongside a few others, is going to be taking place in London on September 15th. The night aims to be, God, it's, you know, it's interesting reading copy of things that you ran or wrote sort of like this many years ago. The night aimed to be a pure and simple dedication to the joys of playing indie games, with a hope to bring some of these insanely creative and fun games to a new audience. So if you help spread the word, I promise you eternal hugs and kisses and maybe a few kittens. Okay, yeah. Well, I'm not entirely sure what the exchange rate was on kittens back in those days, but yeah. So this is what Wild Rumpus was. This is what I'm going to talk to you about. Wild Rumpus was a UK-based collective that I and a few other folks sort of founded way back in 2011. And it is essentially what that copy that I wrote back in 2011 was trying to sort of convey, which I guess nowadays doesn't feel like too sort of wild a concept, running sort of like a night for indie games. But back then it felt sort of relatively sort of revolutionary. But yeah, and so who was I back then? That's what I was going to click on. Yeah, I'm Tiger's Hungry, which I still am. And this is where I come to sound off about things that interest me, mainly with narrative play and digital. That's true. I'm still interested in that stuff. At the time, so I was working at Penguin Books in the UK. And there's some other things I was working on, some old projects, which we do not have time to explain and dig into. But yeah, so let's skip away from my website. Let's go to the Wild Rumpus website. Which I built back at the time on Tumblr. And over the years, I've thought, should I rebuild this in something else? And I have never done that. So it lives for now in like a slightly broken and format that I don't necessarily recommend other people recreate, sort of having their websites in Tumblr. But hey, do you know what? Actually, I think it still looks pretty good. I think it looks okay. So yeah, so we've sort of gone over a bit what Wild Rumpus was, but looking on my sticky note here, like what was going on back in the UK in 2011. So for me at the time, I was somebody who, I wasn't working in games. As you can tell from my other website before, at the time I was working in book publishing, doing digital stuff, but my career and work up until that point had really been working in the film industry, predominantly working sort of on independent films. But I just became during that period of time, I became more and more interested and captivated with what was happening in the sort of blossoming or burgeoning independent game scene. And I wasn't somebody who was making games, but at that point in history, if you were sort of in the UK and interested in that, the only real spaces that you could go to publicly, or the only events that were really sort of existing, were sort of conferences that obviously still exist today, such as Develop, spaces to go if you are developing the games, if you're making the games. And on the other side were things such as, we had like obviously lots of expos here. We have Eurogamer Expo. And so these really big sort of commercial spaces. And for me, I was somebody who was becoming interested in and curious about this sort of rise of people who were making video games, who in my eyes were sort of people that were motivated to create games as creative practice and to do things a bit wild and different. And I was just like, well, where do I go to just be around this work? And so I'd go along to different events and I'd go along to different spaces. But it was often, as I say, like going along to conference talks about how to make games and how to release games. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting, but I'm still not sort of being part of sort of, when it was still not celebrating or playing those games. And then there was something that I saw, which is something that I talk about an awful lot, because there's one image which I think for me sort of is really really impactful in terms of my own sort of personal history. And let's see if we can find it. And it was a photograph that came through, or is a series of photographs that came through from the New York collective Baby Castle. So hopefully you guys can see my browser, and it's come up here. Here it is. And so like this one here, what are we on? Oh, we're on the Kickstarter. Let's go to that Kickstarter page. That was fun. This image is one which I think go away, we don't need to know about publishing. This image is one which I remember coming through like on Twitter at the time. And in my head, like there's almost sort of like a mythological, like a myth or sort of lore that's built up around this image that I remember it looking so much sweatier and so much dirtier. And for me, it was just this image of people sort of casually in what looked like this sort of basement or sort of house space. I can't quite tell if those are kitchen cupboards in the back. Of like this sort of person at the front with these sort of 3D glasses on, people with sort of cheap beer, sort of beer cans in the back, like clutching at controllers, and the fact that you can see all of these messy cables sticking out the back. And it wasn't just this image, but this is the image that I know is sort of really burnt into sort of my mind's eye. And there was these other images as well, like this one of Baby Castle's sort of exhibition space. So for those of you that don't know, Baby Castle's was and still technically is, I don't think it's ever properly disbanded, a collective in New York that was really sort of born out of partly sort of the New York DIY music scene, primarily founded by two people, Syed and Kunal. And they were also inspired by other events, which I can also get up pictures of those as well. The Gamma Parties by Kokoromi. Now, these folks knew how to take a profile picture of their entire team. And so like, this is Kokoromi. So Baby Castles was sort of what came out of the New York scene, but Baby Castles as well were the reason why Baby Castles, or one of the sort of really sort of catalysts for the founding of Baby Castles, was for me the same similar things. It was images, and it was photographs of other events, and it was also attending other events. And so I know that Syed and Kunal, who'd been part of the ITP program at NYU, had both gone up to Montreal to go visit these events that were the Gamma events that were run by the Kokoromi Collective. And so this is the Kokoromi Collective here. Let's see if I can remember everybody's name. I know I'm going to forget this person's name on the end. Oh, no, it says at the bottom. That makes it a lot easier. So we've got Cindy Paremba at the back. We've got Phil Fish. We've got Heather Kelly, and then Damien DeFeed. I don't think I've ever met him, but I know the other three. But for me, just looking at these images, looking at these photographs of these parties and these events that they were putting on was so inspiring. And it was just for me suddenly seeing this space that I wanted to be in, and really just having this intense sense of FOMO about, wow, this is being in all these expo halls, being in all these conferences. That's not what I'm excited about with these games. I want to be in this sweaty basement. I want to be in this sweaty, maybe kitchen space. Again, I'm not entirely sure what that room is, or be in these areas. And so we did what Baby Castles have since told me that they did, which was, we were just like, right, we're going to steal this idea. We're going to take this idea that they're doing in North America, which is a Atlantic Ocean away, and we're going to do this in the UK. And it was really sort of pushing back against, as I say, sort of this scene and what was really happening in the UK at the time. I know in my Flickr, actually, I've got, see if I can find it in my Flickr. There's a picture that I found when I was digging through the other day of, okay, we don't need to see this ice storm pictures. This is my Flickr page that does still exist, surprisingly. All these photographs don't. Let me go all the way back to here. No. There was a drawing that I did of Eurogamer Expo, which I found the other day, which maybe we can come across again. Here's me going to a fun fair with my friend Amy, sticking some spoons, little ice cream spoons on a windowsill. That looks quite nice. We want to get to, oh, there's one more washing a car. Right, I don't think I can find this sort of within a space of time, otherwise we're going to spend probably the next half an hour digging through this picture. But anyway, to summarize, the scene in the UK at that point in time was just not really quite sort of like, I think, really what I was inspired by. And so it was this desire to do something different. Here we go. Here's some photographs and albums, which are a little bit more better organized. And so, yeah, so to kind of sort of, oh, this is important, actually, the Nordic game. Yes. This gets us back on track narratively. So I'm saying all of this with a we. I'm not talking about a royal we. I'm talking about we as the other people that I co-founded Wild Rumpus with. And so ultimately, we were a collective of, oh my God, do I need to count? Was it 5 or 6? I think there was maybe, we'll come back to counting in a minute. But anyway, initially there was 3 of us. There was me, a guy called Ricky Haggett. We can see Ricky Haggett here playing a game of Cash and Guns in Copenhagen. He's this guy here. And it was another guy called Richard Hogg, who also might know as Dick Hogg. And they are both sort of games designers and creatives who were collaborating to make games. The games that you might best know them for, or sort of one of their earlier games, was the video game Hohoken, where you are the big, long, moving, colorful snake, this game. So those are the games that those guys have organized. And so there were people from the UK game scene that I'd sort of met from gate crashing into various sort of indie game developer spaces that I always and still do have that sense of imposter syndrome of like, I'm not actually making games. Am I allowed to be here? But yeah, so here you can see Ricky Haggett playing a game of Cash and Guns. And I've been seeing these photographs of baby castles, and Ricky had been seeing these photographs of baby castles, as had Dick, and they'd also made a game called Poto and Kabenga, which was a game that was one of the submissions that they put into, they sent to Gamma for one of their events and was accepted. So they'd also had a chance to actually go to these events and see what it was like. And I kept saying to them, like, because I think at the time Baby Castles were running a Kickstarter and they were looking to, they had sort of a semi-permanent space. And I was like, we're going to start a gallery. We're going to start like a DIY exhibition space, and it could be an arcade. And oh my God, that was just biting off way more than I could chew, because there's just a lot if you want to have a physical space. But Ricky and I went out to Nordic Game in, let's have a look. I uploaded this photo May 15th. Ooh, hello, go away. In May 2011. So I'm assuming it was the Nordic Game sort of earlier that year. So we went out to Nordic Game that took place in Malmo. And we were there with a range of other independent developers who from the indie scene. And let's subscribe to hide these ads. Research blinds for your home. Now we'll come back to this page, thanks. So we've been out there and we were at this party, and it was like one of the last nights of the conference. And the Nordic Game Conference is still sort of quite a professional conference. And at the event, or the last night, there was this party which had sort of like nice free drinks, and everyone was stood around and chatting. And there was a group of us, though, that kind of wanted to rebel against what was happening. And there was a developer who was there who Ricky knew, who I'd sort of had a chance to make friends with, a guy called Doug Wilson, who I think you can see here, who is playing one of, I think still to this day, one of his favorite games, Tier on Tier, Animal on Animal, an animal stacking game. Now, at the time, Doug had developed a game called Johann Sebastian Joust. And this game, which I'll explain a little bit more and perhaps dig around and find some videos to explain it if you're not familiar, is a game that I think when we're talking about like events like Wild Rumpus, things like Baby Castles, and the rest of like the DIY arcade scene, or however we kind of want to define it, that came off there, was really, it's actually really critical work or critical game. And so there was a group of us that kind of rebelled against this party that was happening, because Doug had this game, it didn't use screens, and it was it used the music of Johann Sebastian Joust. And we just crept away into this back room at the party that nobody was occupying. And Doug got out this really early build, and you know this is a really early build because oh no, that's the opposite direction that I wanted the Zoom to go in. This here is not a PlayStation Move controller. If you've got any familiarity with Johann Sebastian Joust, you'll know that that's a game that's played with PlayStation Move controllers. But this was one of the early builds that was using a Wii Move controller. And this evening and this night was just so precious to sort of, I think Ricky and I just being in this back room, sort of jettisoning the rest of the sort of formal video game conference party, playing with a load of independent game developers and playing this sort of very physical game of spectacle and performance in this back room. And off the back of that, when we got back to the UK, Ricky and I were just like, okay, look, let's scale down the ambitions. It doesn't have to be that we open a permanent arcade somewhere. It could just be like, what if we just do a night and we just base it around what was that evening that we spent at Nordic Game Conference in that back room with Johann Sebastian Joust. And that's really where Wild Rumpus was born. And I think now, considering that I've talked about it, it's probably a good time. And let's all cross our fingers and hope that the internet is with us enough to let us watch my computer to yours, a video of Johann Sebastian Joust. So I'm just going to get this YouTube video up. There we go. Sports friends. So that video gives you, if you're not familiar with Johann Sebastian Joust, that video hopefully gives you a bit of an insight into what the game is. So it's a game that ultimately was played with PlayStation Move controllers. It's a game that doesn't have a screen. It's a game in which each person has a PlayStation Move controller, and this soundtrack of Johann Sebastian Bach plays, and the music speeds up and slows down and changes tempo. And the aim of the game is that you do not want your Move controller moving faster than the tempo of the music, but you do want your opponent's controllers to be moving faster than music. And so what you end up with is this really sort of beautifully sort of improvised choreography amongst people who are playing the game to try and keep their controller moving really slowly, but as soon as that music speeds up, to try and jump in and sort of bash controllers from other people and make theirs move a little bit faster. And it's a game that is one which really just hugely excels in being shown in a public setting. And I think for me, I know with Wild Rumpus that we show Johann Sebastian Joust at a ton of Wild Rumpus events. And I know as well, speaking to other events internationally, like speaking to the folks from Super Friendship Arcade, who have sort of gone on to develop Playtopia in South Africa and like a Maze, and obviously Baby Castles as well, just how significant sort of that game was in terms of providing this sort of real sort of inspiration and catalyst for events. And one thing to quickly note in terms of radical honesty, you can see on my YouTube recommendations. One, I've been learning to crochet recently. So you can see quite a few sort of crochet recommendations. Also, I have a celebrity crush on Matt Johnson, who is the director and person behind Nirvana the band, and so I've been watching a lot of the interviews that he's been doing recently, because Nirvana the band, the show, the movie has just come out in the US and it does not have a UK release. So that explains some of this. I'm not entirely sure what these recommendations are down here, but anyway, yeah, that's explaining my YouTube algorithm to you. And so yeah, so that's kind of the impetus and sort of the founding of where Wild Rumpus came from. And like now I think what's probably interesting is like, let's maybe dig into some of the early events. So I've got the website up here so you can see some of our event posters. And I think I was pretty good at archiving or keeping it archived. the different games that were showcased to each. Maybe I wasn't. Does this link click through to anything? No, it opens up an image of that. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not so good. I did manage to get onto a page which had some of the lineups from the different events, but fear not, we don't have to just rely on this Tumblr, this badly organized page on Tumblr. We can come into the archived Wild Rumpus folder on Google Drive, which when I was digging around the other day to try and find what files and things I had around, I'm really surprised that this is actually as organized as it was, because there must have been at some point in history where I came into Google Drive and just decided to tidy things up. So yeah, so you can see like all of the different sort of years that we did events. You can see here Child Rumpus. Child Rumpus was the event that never was, because we obviously have the name Wild Rumpus. For those folks who went to GDC from the years maybe 2012 to around about 2018, you might be familiar with another space that we ran called Mild Rumpus, which was kind of the opposite of Wild Rumpus. It was a very chilled out space, modeled after like a little woodland area where we showed different games. But we obviously also riffed on that idea. Child Rumpus was going to be a Mild Rumpus for kids. We'd also talked about running a tiled Rumpus at some point, which we thought maybe that would be like a white clean Rumpus, or maybe something in a bathroom, but that never transpired. But yeah, so past events. So let's go back into 2011. Oh, what have we got here? We've got a press release, a budget. These are gray. What does that mean? Does that mean it's not going to open up? Ah, no, it does. Look. Oh, look. This is when I think about the people who are behind Wild Rumpus and the different things that we all contributed. My main contribution was the person that did all of the Excel spreadsheets and things. So here you can see sort of the early budget from our early event. How much did it cost? We've got 1 projector screen, 4 Xbox controllers. That's not that many. 5 move controllers. You can see here, obviously, getting more move controllers was really key and critical. And then different things. That's not that exciting. So budget spreadsheets.
Hey, Marie, I'm really sorry to interrupt you here, but we have a really important update. We can pet the dog.
We can pet the dog?
We can pet the dog. We've broken $4,000.
Okay, that's amazing. If I bring her, should I bring her in here now? So I've just had the update that we have reached the goal to be able to pet the dog. If I get Rhubarb in here, she's going to bring chaos, but maybe that's fine. Or maybe I can do that at the end of the stream. Okay, now I'm going to do it at the end of the stream because, wait, should I do it at the end of the stream? No, everybody's chanting dog in the chat. Okay. I'm gonna have to go out the room and come back again. I'll bring the dog back in a second. You guys, in the meantime, can let's leave you on something interesting to read. Maybe we've got a spreadsheet or something you can look at. Let's go on to Flickr. Let's put up the Flickr photos from the first event. Groups. Now albums. Here we go. Here's the first event. Album by me. There we go. You can look at these beautiful photos while I go and fetch the dog so that we can all, well, you can't pet her, but I can pet her at least.
What we're ready for, Marie. Thank you so much, everyone, for donating to ROMchip. We are less than $3,000 away from our first goal.
Give me a minute.
This is our 3rd annual fundraiser. Your donations have enabled ROMchip to be fully independently sponsored, supported. So glad to have you. Thank you.
Did everybody hear all of the dogs downstairs?
Oh yeah, they heard it all.
And here, as promised, is Rhubarb. I can't. It's not updated on the stream, so I can't see if you're seeing her. Cody, can I have clarification that the stream has seen the dog? Right, Rhubarb. Thank you. Sorry, my earpiece keeps falling out, so I can't hear what you guys are saying. There we go. Right. I'm going to put her back with the other chaos agents downstairs, or you can go on the bed for a bit. If you're quiet, you can sit there, madam. Okay. There we go. No, do you want to go back out? Or are you okay in here? Up, up. There we go. She's going to stay on the bed, and she's going to stay here for the rest of the stream. Oh, I get this. Look, also, I'm holding out on everybody because there's actually 2 other dogs downstairs, but they're not my dogs. So, and one of them's a lot bigger than Rue, so be a little bit too cumbersome to bring onto the screen. But anyway, Ruba, where were we? Yeah, we were talking about Wild Rumpus, weren't we? We were talking about the first event. And then I left you guys looking at some of the photographs whilst I went downstairs to go and rescue this little goblin from the carnage. Yeah. Oh, no, that's the other thing that I was going to do. We're going to go into emails. But yeah, so, look, here we go. So yeah, other things from sort of the first Wild Rumpus, like I was digging through, oh, here we go. Here's our old email threads. Oh, no, Rhubarb wants out. She's bored of this. Okay, I'm just going to go allow the dog out of the room. She's just, game history is not her thing. Like treats and butt sniffing, that's more Rue's MO. Blip, blip, blip. So, yeah, God, here we go. This was me trying to find, I was digging through my emails to try and find like some of the earliest information, like, because I don't actually have that much in the Google Drive, and I know that I put together some really comprehensive spreadsheets, because I remember being at a meeting with Dick and Ricky when we were talking about putting on the first event, and then being really thrilled with the fact that I'd marked on the spreadsheet the time that the sun set, because I knew how important it was for us to, if we were going to do things outdoors, that we needed to make sure it was dark to be able to project things. But I cannot find those spreadsheets now. But yeah, so here we've got like some of the really early email chains from between me, Dick, and Ricky. And I remember that, like, yeah, oh, that was it. Originally, Wild Rumpus was going to be called Load Up on Guns. I am really glad, I think we're all really glad that we didn't choose that name in the end. For those who might not, I guess, get it, that was a reference specifically to the Nirvana song. None of us are particularly big Nirvana fans, but I think we kind of thought it was just a bit funny because a lot of the games that we were going to show just were not sort of the typical sort of cliched idea of video games. There was often going to be sort of very few guns in the games we were going to show, so we thought it was funny. But I think it was like when we were trying to do the artwork that it just wasn't working. And so so we changed it. And I think one of Dick Hogg's absolute sort of rare sort of skills or gifts that he has is that he has the uncanny ability to come up with names for things. And the other thing that sort of Dick, this is Dick Hogg here, sort of at the back with a PlayStation Move controller held high and 93 feet east. So the other thing as well that sort of Dick really contributed to Wild Rumpus as well, that one of his sort of like key sort of contributions is that he is an illustrator, and he's the guy who did sort of the artwork for all of the different posters that we had over the years. And so like you can see the original poster that we had for the first event, that obviously sort of the 2 little logos. These, I don't entirely know what they are, but like, I guess if you guys are familiar sort of the name Wild Rumpus, that it sort of comes from, a reference to the book Where the Wild Things Are. And these 2 weird sort of wild creatures, I don't entirely know what they are, but I know that one of the things that stayed with me all the way through these years is Dick Hogg telling us that their names were Christopher Hazlitt and Hongo. And I think Christopher Hazlitt was the name of somebody that he went to school with. But yeah, so that is, again, sort of seared into my brain as a memory, or something that I will always remember. My God, I know that the tech issues that we had at the beginning sort of obviously sort of ate a chunk of time. Here was me sort of thinking, how long is it going to take to sort of dig through this stuff? Am I just going to rattle through things? But like, we've really covered almost next to no ground about the history of Wild Rumpus. but yeah, like so like maybe the best thing to do then is to like look at some of the Flickr photos of the different events, because I think that gives folks, or gives you guys, a little bit more context about the different things. Let's pick a different one. Let's go to Wild Rumpus 2. Yeah, and so this is what sort of a lot of the early events really look like. We were primarily in this venue for the first couple of events called 93 Feet East, which is like this sort of nightclub bar space in just off Brick Lane in London. I remember that I got really annoyed with the venue because the first time that we ran Wild Rumpus there, they knew we were going to do an event that was showcasing sort of independent and alternative video games. And I think they just thought not that many people were going to come out for it. And so, oh gosh, those ads again, boo, go away. So they actually didn't stock the bar properly. And so we ran out of booze halfway through the night. And one of the things I was annoyed about was the fact that we didn't pay for venue hire, but we were also getting a cut of the bar. And so it was really annoying that we sort of ran out. And then the next time that we went back to them after doing the second event, they said to us, oh, well, what we're going to do is we're actually going to give you a lower cut of the bar, because I think even you were surprised with how well you were doing last time. And that really annoyed me, because I'm like, what? Like, we're doing well, so you want to give us even less money? That doesn't work. And so by the third one, we moved to an entirely different venue, which was for this event, which, yeah, and you can see, like, so here's for the third Wild Rumpus that we ran, we ran a super hexagon tournament, and you can see Terry Kavanagh here stood on this hexagonal plinth that we built sort of especially for the occasion. I, at the time, was a really skilled super hexagon player. I, for a while, was #1 on the App Store leaderboard until Terry would often come on and boot me off. I think we bought for the tournament a series of prizes that were all hexagonal shapes. So I think there was like jars of honey and some hex keys as well and other stuff. Yeah, and here's a game of Mega GURP with Alan Hazelden, which if you're familiar with him as a developer, he also has a special skill of being somebody who is just phenomenal at playing Mega GURP. And yeah, so like for us, the sort of games that we'd show at the events were like, we always typically referred to it as games that were sort of games of physical sort of spectacle and performance. And I did actually have queued up like another game as well. So like primarily the sort of stuff that we would showcase would be things such as like Johann Sebastian Joust, or games that were really sort of needed physical spaces to be shown, things that used custom hardware or custom controllers, or multiplayer games that foster that sense of competition. But one of the things that we sort of realized after a while is that we'd really underestimated the value of spectatorship. And sort of one of the games that I was going to close out playing, which we are not going to play, but maybe in another year, was a video game Proteus by Ed Key and David Kanaga, which is not multiplayer, but it never really felt like it quite fit the bill of what we thought we were looking to do, but it actually fit really perfectly with the event. In that sort of, sometimes people just want a space to just sit and watch somebody else play a video game, which sadly, oh, somebody's breaking into the room. I think we've got a dog coming back in for a final hello, just as the stream wraps up. Come back up, Rhubarb. And yeah, and so that is a very fast and slightly scrappy run through various folders and Flickr albums and things on my computer of the early days of Wild Rumpus. And yeah, and sadly, you will never know what this post-it note was about, or what these choose your own tangents could have possibly led to.
Marie, thank you so much for that. Kept the chat active. We got over 4K. I was like, I could literally watch another hour of you going through your desktop and Gmail. Everyone, like, there was like a chat gasp when you opened up spreadsheets. It was like, I think
everybody loves a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I think desktop history talk should be a genre, and I think this video could become formative in that genre. So X are out for 2026. That's our ROMchip prediction here. Thank you so much for getting us up to $4,208.77. That is 60% of our 7K goal. Amazing work. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Rhubarb, for being such a participant. And Marie, I will check you later. Thanks so much. All right. Am I flying solo now? Check. All right. For folks just joining, I'm Lane Nooney. I'm the managing editor of ROMchip, a journal of game histories. We are an open access hybrid audience online venue for the publication of game history, and this is our fundraiser for our annual budget. And so what do? What are we? So first, we develop, solicit, edit, and publish work across a range of formats, from traditional peer-reviewed articles to oral histories, short essays, and translations, dealing with everything from video games to board games, analog games, sports, and play. Second, we have no paywall, no advertising, no logins, no predatory publishing model. You don't have to pay anything to read the research published in ROMchip. And we are hybrid audience, meaning that you shouldn't need a PhD to be able to write for or interview for or read ROMchip. We are trying to create a big tent around games research. And so our current tier 1 fundraising goal of 7,000K covers our basic operating costs. But of course, we don't just want to meet that goal, we want to exceed it. We've got 2 more tiers after that, 8.5 and 10K, and all of that means we can pay more writers, pay more translators, make more game history possible. Please, so don't just hover over that donate link. Click, drop us some funds. Any amount helps.